Hi friends, and welcome back to Beloved Reviews. If you're new here on this channel, I share with you delightful, family-friendly, and faith-based movies and television shows. Happy Sunday. I think that's when y'all be watching this. Y'all let me know how y'all doing. What are you up to? What are you streaming? Have you been to the theaters lately? If not, what are you anticipating or like excited about watching? All of that, please let me know down below. As for me, I am feeling amazing. I know I usually say that, but it is the truth. And that's a good thing because I wouldn't want to feel anything less than that. But yeah. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our special feature today, which is titled Eat, Play, Love. Now you can find this film streaming right now on Hallmark Plus, but first let me tell y'all what this film is about. Dr. Carley Monroe, a small town veterinarian, falls in love with Dan, adult shelter owner who is already engaged. Carley has 1 month to convince Dan that they belong together before he moves to New York. Now, friends, this was such a cute, adorable, precious, sweet film I came across unexpectedly. I was just kind of strolling through the Hallmark movies and I was like, this seems a bit interesting because this was not long after I watched Guiding Emily. If you have not watched me talk about that or been in that conversation, y'all know y'all can pull that up in the video history. But yeah, so we were already kind of like in doggy heaven. So it just made sense, right? I was still kind of in that mode. So when I seen this and seeing like the cover for this film, I was like, oh, this looks interesting. This looks really, really fun and cute. So let's dive in. So here we do meet Carley, and one of the things I have to say about Carley that I just really, really like about her is how sweet natured she is. She's so polite and kind, and when I see characters like that, automatically my heart is melting. I want the best for them. I'm rooting for them. I'm like, okay, come on, I'm praying for them. And want everything to work out for them. And that's how you feel about Carley here. You just immediately fall for her because she's, like I said, she's very, very sweet. And she's returning home. She is a vet. Her grandpa is a veterinarian too and owns his own business or whatever. So Carley grew up around him, seeing his love for animals, how he tended to animals and different things. So it kind of made sense that that's all she saw, that's all she knew, and she kind of had that love, inherited that love for animals as well. And she made a declaration, like in her heart, I guess, at a very, very young age, that this is what she wanted to do. So she was on this journey to pursue this right away, and that to me, I don't know, it really struck me hard there because I'm always reminded, I wish I knew exactly what I wanted, or at least what God wanted me to do as young as possible, so I could have started that journey a lot earlier in life. I mean, it's like the earlier the better. So you can spend more time in it. You will have more time to invest yourself in it. So by the time you are done with it, you are not like as old as you probably would have been had you not started out as younger, you know. And so, and of course, y'all know, y'all probably like below, we have already went through this in previous reviews, videos, that it seemed like I wanted to do so many different things. I was all over the place, and veterinarian was one of those things as well. But this was more later in life. This is like more of an adult kind of thing that I kind of thought about that I would have liked to do. So this was more, around this age. That I thought about it and looked into it and seen how many years that it would take and all of that. And that kind of derived from me being a cat owner for the very, very first time. This is my very first time in life that I had like my own pet that belonged to me, that I was a part of the journey, that I allowed God to lead me to and choose and all of that. And seeing how my cat Angel, how sweet natured she is and wonderful and all of that. I was like, oh, it would be so nice to kind of work with animals. So that's Angel fault. I'm playing you, Angel. But anyways, yeah. So right away, I love that Dr. Carley is a veterinarian here. She's coming back to her hometown with a lot of she's in a good place, right? I believe she's in a good place. But one of the things with her is she left behind so many different things. And one of the biggest things that she kind of left behind in her life and never kind of got any closure on was her relationship with her high school sweetheart, Dan, who's also kind of matured, moved on in life. He's over this, like the owner, shelter owner of this dog rescue place. So he's working with animals round the clock like she does, but in a different way. And it's amazing because there's a scene in this film where there are like Carley is looking back at their yearbook, and her and Dan are in their picture there as most likely to get married. And to see how they turned out thus far, it kind of hits her in a very strange and awkward way, because you can tell in her heart that she thought the same thing, that this would be the guy that she would ultimately get married to. And I believe it was the same way on his end. For whatever reason, that didn't happen. And that, I mean, it's kind of normal. And in high school, where most people are different people than they are when they are adults, but that's usually what we are accustomed to seeing. But one of the interesting things about this film is Carley seems to be different, and it reminds me a lot of myself too. Carley seems to be just like she was in high school, but in all the good ways, in the good ways of the innocence, in the good ways of a dreamer and sweet, kind, like embraces life, like just free in a lot of ways, as opposed to adults. When people get past that stage in life, they allow life to happen. Well, life is going to happen, but what I mean, they allow life to change things for them. Like, they don't dream as big anymore. They kind of settle for whatever life threw their way, that type of thing. And that's very unfortunate, but we don't see that here with Carley. That's not at all her. To the point where in a lot of ways she dresses in a very similar to what she did when she was in high school. And you may be thinking like, beloved girl, that's crazy. We do not need to be dressing how we did in high school, right? But in a lot of ways, I feel like that's cute. It's precious. So her look is very innocent. It's very wholesome. It's very different from everybody else. With other people may be a little bit more flashy. I mean, you know, when women start to become women, you know, they're in their heels. They're out there in a lot of different ways, that depending on whatever time that they're in. And Carley is totally different. Like I said, she gives off that high school feel as far as the vibe, the look, and she's a dreamer in every sense of the word, that type of thing. And that connects with me as a person, because it reminds me, I remember thinking, because I was talking recently, y'all, with a family member about this. We laughed about it, how this particular family member said that I wore, like, in so many photos of me in like my middle school shirt, or the shirt that I had like since elementary school, a special shirt. That was like my favorite shirt. It was this purple shirt when I was in this music program, and that meant the world to me. And so I wore that shirt all through middle school, all through high school, all through my younger adult years. That was my shirt or whatever. And I was still wearing it. Didn't care what nobody thought or whatever. It was just my shirt. And when I look back, when I couldn't articulate it as a kid, as I'm moving through school, you know, middle school and all that stuff, I couldn't articulate, or it didn't come to mind for me to be able to say that was probably one of my favorite times of my life, and the time that I felt like I was mostly who I was and accepted for who I was. And yeah, so when I look back on that, that's what I see. That's why that shirt it meant so much to me. And I probably would be wearing that shirt now if I had it, okay? It was just, that's my thing. But anyway, so that kind of did remind me, brought up memories with seeing how Carley moved and all of this stuff. But Carley is very, very good with animals. You can tell that's her heart. It makes sense why she's in this particular profession. However, y'all, with Dan is in a different place in his life. He is, in a sense, the same Dan that she left behind and she knew all of her life, especially like in her high school years. But he is engaged, and he's engaged to someone who went to school with them, who probably didn't even look his way twice, because that's how different they were. And here she is, this woman, I think her name is Christie. Okay, y'all, I'm back. Forgive me. But anyways, yes, so Dan is engaged to someone who is totally different than who he is. Like, they do not even compliment each other. Dan seemed a little bit more down to earth, like he loves animals. It makes sense why he's over this particular shelter. That means the world to him. He has a soft heart. And the woman that he's engaged to is very uppity, snobbish, very selfish. You can tell, like, she's all about herself in a lot of ways, and anytime she extends a helping hand, even though it may seem like it's a helping hand, it's ultimately is to help herself. And Carley points that out in this film at some point. And that's the way that his fiance tends to move about. And one of the things that it does remind me of, and I'm kind of happy that this film took this particular approach to this type of thing that a lot of people have come in contact with and deal with on a regular basis when it comes to being involved, being engaged with the wrong type of person, human being, is that we do get people like you. I don't know, when you end up with someone who is totally different than you are. And yes, we know in a sense you have heard people say opposites attract, and that's true to a degree, but it shouldn't be to the point where like your moral code, your moral standards are like so different, are manipulated in a sense. Like, Dan is a person that cares about animals. That is his heart. That is a part of who he is. So he shouldn't have to compromise that part of himself to be with this woman. Like, he can't even have any pets or anything because they're engaged, and he has to consider the fact that she hates animals. Like, she hates dogs. So there's no, that shouldn't even be like, they shouldn't compromise that for one another. At that point, it seems like y'all shouldn't even be together. It is like, for example, one person wants kids, another person doesn't. That should be a deal breaker right there. And that's one of the things that I felt like, and it was so like, it made me feel some kind of way watching this because, like I said, this kind of thing happens a lot in real life when you get people who are like a believer and an unbeliever. That shouldn't happen. That should be a deal breaker. If you don't love God, if you are a person who loves God, Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, you should not have to turn that off or compromise that for a person who does not live that. Their actions show that they don't live that, even if they're saying and they're out of their mouth, yes, I'm a believer too, I'm a Christian too, whatever. Yeah, sure, I get it. But when your actions are not in line with that, are not in line with biblical principles, that is a clear indication that that is obviously not the person for you. You're unequally yoked. And that's one of the things that came up to me in this film, seeing certain things that should be deal breakers that are not, and seeing people trying to push past those barriers, and ultimately knowing that it's going to lead to destruction, ultimately knowing that somebody's going to get hurt because you're just not equally yoked. You shouldn't even be together at all. And that's what we see here with Dan. And like I said, what I appreciate that it happened from the guy's perspective here, because usually it is always the women who tend to compromise their beliefs, their moral code, their faith, to be with someone who you know you have no business being with, as if you are going to change them, as if, come on now, let's just be realistic here. And that's one of the things that I walked away from this film, is to be reminded of who you are and know that whoever you are and whatever your belief system is, your moral code, it shouldn't be compromised to be with another person. So that's one of the things, like I said, it was very, very difficult watching here with Dan. I felt so bad for him because seeing his love for animals and making the world a better place, it's a wonderful thing. It's a good thing. And it's like you have to quiet that, silence that, almost annihilate that, just to cater to this woman who would never like love you in the end, and she would never be that for you, no matter what. And that's what we saw here in this film. And of course, yes, I was rooting for Carley, who was his high school sweetheart. I was rooting for them to be together because it made sense. Carley loves animals. She's a vet. You love animals. You're a shelter owner. That works. That goes together. Not to mention, Carley is so sweet and loving, and just to see when they are together and them like going back, kind kind of thinking about the past and all of that. And you see how well they complement each other. You see the honesty there, the sincerity there, the fact that they were able to be themselves with each other. And it showed more and more as we went throughout the film that, hey, this is it. This is it. And yet they were fighting it because they felt like they were adults now, and maybe they are trying to like relive the past, and we know that we can't do that, even though so many people try to do that. But doing that is unhealthy and it would not work. And I guess they were trying to kind of avoid that, trying to relive the past, and they felt like they were kind of doing that in a sense. If they were trying to make an attempt at this relationship, give it a go again. And I got that the reason why they were fighting that, but at the same time, I felt like more on Dan's end. If nothing else, okay, I get what you're trying to do, what you're trying to avoid with Carley, but if nothing else, don't ruin your life by being with this person who clearly doesn't love you and you clearly don't love, but you're trying to make it work because you don't want to be the bad guy, you don't want to be the villain here, or you just feel like you're getting older and it makes sense, I have to settle down at some point. I mean, so many of us make terrible decisions because we're trying to race against time, and we're doing things for all the wrong reasons instead of being patient, allowing God to choose our person, to choose our friendships, to choose our jobs, to choose everything for us by taking the passenger seat and allowing him to be in the driver's seat. And I know that is pretty difficult for a lot of people. Even literally it's pretty difficult, especially if you feel if you're one of those people where you feel like you have to be in control and you need to know what's going on, you need to know what's around that next corner every single time. So I get that it can be very, very uncomfortable allowing somebody else to take the driver's seat. But in the case with God, as much as I know it's easier said than done, we know that if nothing else, God loves us. Right? That goes without saying. We are the apple of his eye. He wants the very best for us. He can see the beginning, the ending, the everything. And we're so limited in our knowledge and what we can see. So if nothing else, let's just try just a little bit. Try to hand over the reins a little bit. Let him take control and be our God, to be our everything for us. And that is another thing that I'm thinking about. I don't know if I'm necessarily thinking about it as I was watching the film, but it's one of the things that are popping in my mind as I'm talking with you all right now and kind of rehearsing those feelings, those emotions of watching these characters here live out their lives and seeing the mistakes that they could possibly make if you don't make a different choice here. So yeah, that's kind of where I was here. But overall, these characters are so loving, so adorable. I love the scenery here. I love the small town. The animals, so adorable. And just wanting to adopt them all and take them all home and snuggle them up, That's how I felt watching the different scenes here. Oh, I also have to say that I love Dan's sister, who was Team Carley all the way here. The sister was trying in her own way to get them together, trying to make sure that her brother ultimately get the things that he deserved and what she knew he wanted, even though he didn't want to admit it or even was aware at certain points in the film what he truly wanted, what would make his heart, just kind of thump a little bit. But yeah, this was such a fun, cute, and adorable film. Will put you in a good mood. It's definitely one of those feel-good type of films. If you are in a place where you're like, you have those moments where you feel like, you just don't want to do nothing. Probably a little bit of depression is on, knocking at the door or something like that. Go ahead and turn on this film for fun, because I promise you it would definitely put you in a good place, leave you smiling, leave you laughing. And also, not to mention, like I even mentioned here in this review, certain lessons that you walk away with this film. And y'all know I always have to go a little bit deeper. I must because I have to do this. I can't help myself. But overall, like I said, good time here. Once again, Eat, Play, Love, streaming right now on Hallmark Plus. But before I leave y'all for today, we're going to go ahead and get into the scripture. And we're coming out of Proverbs chapter 29, verse 5. And this sort of reminded me of Dan's fiance. I don't like you. I just don't like you. Okay, anyway, it reads, a man who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his feet. Wow. Y'all take that to the bank right there. Please remember these types of things y'all dealing with people, because people can be something else. They really can. So until next time, may the Lord bless and keep you both now and forevermore.